It's Ask Me Anything time here on Jimmy Rants. So ask me anything. Click on that little box down there in the corner. It'll take you straight to IGTV for today's episode. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live in the content. You got to go follow me. I'm over on Instagram. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live in the content. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So be there, be square. We also simulcast live over here on Facebook. So thank you guys for being here today. We also simulcast on the YouTube live stream. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay right here on Instagram. IGTV houses it there when we're done here today. We also throw the past episodes up over on YouTube. If you type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you will find the show. And finally, hop on over to the official website for this show. It is at JimmyRants.com. You can see all the past episodes there as well. And if you like what we do here and you like the show and you like this goofball that gets to host this show, we would really appreciate it if you could click on that Patreon link, and a donation of any amount would be greatly appreciated. I will tell you, if you are a member of my Patreon, we have 2 brand new interviews up on the Patreon page today. They are 2 video interviews that I did for my upcoming podcast next week. So this is one of the perks you get when you're a Jimmy Moore Insider Club, is you get access early to these videos and the interviews. So next week on Wednesday on Living La Vida Low Carb Show, I've got Janae Siwis. She is the wife of Dr. Robert Siwis, talking about pregnancy and nutrition. And then on Thursday, guys, you will not want to miss next Thursday's Real Talk, but you can watch it right now if you become a member of my Patreon. Sean Croxton, so he is one of the OGs when it comes to the health and wellness space. He and I came along right about the same time. He came just after I started podcasting, and he created a great podcast called The Underground Wellness Show, and fantastic interviewer. Oh my gosh. Like, I aspire to be like him someday in my interviewing skills. But he and I sat down for an interesting conversation because he thinks the health community has lost its way. And it's one reason he got out of the health space and stopped podcasting with Underground Wellness. You're going to want to hear what he has to say as an indictment on the health community. So those 2 are both available for you to watch right now. So as soon as you're done watching this live on Jimmy Rants, go and support my Patreon and you'll get to see those 2 interviews. But we're here today because it is Ask Me Anything. Literally, this is your day of the week to ask all your questions that you've ever wanted to know. All throughout the week, I do all kinds of like topical Jimmy Rants, and people throw an oddball question in there. I'm like, okay, save that till Friday because that's when we do Ask Me Anything. So obviously I have knowledge about keto and fasting and cholesterol, blogging and social media and podcasting and book writing, and really anything you want to ask of me personally. I got a lot of great questions ahead of time over here on Instagram, so we'll be getting to those here in just a moment. In fact, one of those questions was about how I like my eggs, because I scrambled, or I have pictures that I post on Instagram with like my backyard chicken eggs, and so they want to know, what do I do to make them? And so I'll say that one real quick, and then we'll get to the headlines I have here. So I basically have 8 of backyard chicken eggs. Just had it a couple hours ago, and I put the 8 in the pan, cooked in some grass-fed butter, maybe like a tablespoon of grass-fed butter, and I put them in the pan. I let them kind of cook for a little bit. While they're cooking, I throw some Redmond's real salt on it. I also use Select Savory Seasonings, has this ranch seasoning, so I sprinkle that on top as well. And then as the whites start to turn a little bit white, I then do what's called country scramble. So it's where you take a fork in the pan and you just scramble it up in the pan. It'll still be kind of wet and everything, and you kind of let it sit there on extremely low heat. And then I just kind of stir it around until it starts cooking. And when it's kind of a soft scrambled look, I put some cheese over the top of it, and then I turn off the eye. I come in here, sit down, do some things on social media for about 10 to 15 minutes. And when I come back, it's all fully cooked, All of the cheese is melted. All I do is then like slide it out of the pan and then flip it over so it becomes kind of this omelet. And I eat that, and sometimes I'll eat it with avocado mayo. I have used some low carb ketchup before, but that's kind of my go-to. And I've been eating that more and more lately because of some of the financial difficulties right now. Can't afford to buy a whole lot of like red meat. So I've got backyard chickens, free food. I might as well take advantage of that. But that is how I prepare my eggs. Okay, let's get to a few of these articles that are really quick, and then we'll come to your questions. So get your questions ready. Write your questions down there right now, and when the time comes, we'll come to you and do our best to answer. All right. Have you heard about what they're doing in Indiana? So they just announced a brand new requirement that you have to wear a mask in the state of Indiana. If you are over the age of 8, you must wear face coverings in indoor public spaces while using public transportation, and then outdoors when you're social distancing and it's not possible to social distance. I assume if you're at a sporting event, that would qualify. And so they're required for all schools, faculty, staff, and students 3rd grade and above. This is in the state of Indiana. They're going to give an exemption to anyone while they're eating and drinking. I would hope so. It's kind of hard to do those things with a mask on. Participating in strenuous physical activity. I've seen some people working out with masks on. I'm like, man, it's hard enough to work out without a mask on. I can't imagine how you do it with a mask on. Or a medical condition that prevents them from wearing a mask. So there's where you get into the slippery slope of, okay, what medical condition? Do they have to reveal the medical condition? Like, there's where some of the arguments happen between people. So the penalty, it will actually be a Class B misdemeanor if you are caught not wearing a mask in these situations. And of course they say, well, police isn't going to really enforce this, but violators could be fined up to $1,000. And so I'm like, okay, so if you make this a law, a misdemeanor, Class B misdemeanor, you make it a law, you make the fine up to $1,000, but then you say you're not going to enforce it. What's the law for? Like, if you don't enforce a law, is there really a law in place? That one just seemed weird to me. Got another one here. So if you live in the Washington, D.C. area, you must now, according to the mayor, Muriel Bowser, you must wear a mask. It's a universal mask order, except if you're a lawmaker, a judge, or a federal employee. So they're mandating the wearing of masks all indoor and outdoor settings. No other profession other than lawmakers, judges, and federal employees are exempt. And that's crazy. Like, what is it about being a lawmaker, judge, or federal employee that makes it less susceptible for you to get the coronavirus, but then everybody else has to wear a mask? That was kind of a weird one when I saw that headline. If masks are effective at controlling COVID-19, as so many people state and observe and believe, then why not make everybody? Except for like the worst kind of medical conditions. That was weird. Really weird. So, we're getting some news about this vaccine for COVID-19. Have you heard about Operation Warp Speed? That is what they're calling the move to get the vaccine here. The head of the government's effort to develop a vaccine against COVID-19 says he expects the vaccine to have an efficacy rate of 90%. But there might not be enough vaccines available for all Americans until the end of 2021. And so they call this Operation Warp Speed. This guy here, Moncef Slough, is an immunologist, formerly headed up the vaccine program at GlaxoSmithKline pharmaceutical company. He said there would be enough vaccines for all Americans, ideally by the middle of next year, but probably by the end of next year. But that's interesting when they call it Operation Warp Speed. You know, if we're going to create a vaccine, I don't want you to do it at warp speed. I want you to do it at safe speed. And warp speed just invites trouble, if you ask me. No matter what your position is on vaccines, we do not want one that is so rushed, so warp speed that there are potentials for problems. And that's what concerns a lot of people right now. And then finally, Science Daily has a really fascinating story about medieval medicine providing new treatment for some of the modern day infections. Because of antibiotic resistance that's out there, there's an increasing battle for scientists to overcome as more antimicrobials are urgently needed to deal with various infections. And so now they're looking into natural antimicrobials. And listen to this. So back in ancient days, some of the natural antimicrobials, it included things like a mix of garlic, which contains allicin, ALLICIN, and other kind of natural things like onion, wine, bile. All of these can kill a problematic bacteria. The mixture did not cause much damage to human cells in the lab or to mice, and could potentially be developed into a safe and effective antibacterial treatment from the remedy. That's the interesting thing about all this. Like, we're always trying to find a new drug. We're always trying to find a new remedy that nature has already provided for us. Except they always want to do it artificially, using chemicals, using things that are unnatural, to create a medicine all for the sake of money, when all along Chinese medicine and some of these natural remedies have been out there for many years, and they have great efficacy. And so this is good news that they're starting to look at some of these more natural ways of creating healing and health. That's nothing but a good thing in the end. All right, if you're just joining us, this is Ask Me Anything. So on Fridays here on Jimmy Rants, we open the floor to you to ask literally any question you want to ask. I have expertise in keto and cholesterol, fasting, social media, podcasting, blogging, being famous online, book writing, and of course, anything you want to ask of me. All right, so ahead of time, we got a few questions over here on Instagram, so let's go to some of those. This was a funny one. Do you do personal constellations or pick my brain phone calls? Well, no, I'm not a reader of the stars, and so I don't do personal constellations. I think they meant consultations, but yeah, this is an interesting one because for many years people have said, hey, you should like take clients and you should, if someone wants to pick your brain and you talk to them about nutrition or whatever, you should open that as part of your business. And I've resisted that for a long time because look, I don't have any credentials. I'm not a RD, an MD, a PhD, or any D. I'm just a dude. And so my education I do through this kind of thing. And of course, I've written many books. I could do it, but I have resisted that. Now, that said, people that have needed help, I have gladly called on the phone. Many of them will tell you, both from talking about nutrition and cholesterol, and even business advice. And I've helped so many people get podcasts off the ground. And I've never charged for that. The way I see it is I've been blessed in my life and I could pay it forward to other people, then that will come back to me. So to answer your question, no, I do not do personal consultations. But I have talked to people, not for pay anyway. I have talked to people. So DM me and I'll be happy to chat with you about your situation. But thank you for that question. Is there some kind of test or blood work to check to see if you have insulin resistance? Great question. So the key things with insulin resistance, obviously your blood sugar would be the first place that you could look. So test your blood sugar. If it's over 100 in a fasted state, then it can be problematic that you're starting to lean towards insulin resistance. If you have a blood insulin level, fasting insulin level of double digits or higher, you also are heading towards insulin resistance, so over 10. Ideally, you want that number to be under 5 is the number for insulin. By the way, with the blood sugar, anything under 100 is good, but definitely under 90 is what they're looking for optimal. 70s and 80s is where a lot of keto people hang out. Another one to look for with insulin resistance could be some inflammation markers as well. So you could look at an HSCRP, and that number can be should be below 3.0, optimally under 1.0. And also just physically on your body. Do you have stored body fat that is centered right in the middle of your body? That's a sign of insulin resistance. And a big one that people don't even put the connection to, but do you have those little skin tags on your body? So anywhere where you got like a little piece of skin that kind of hangs off the side, maybe an arm, usually it's around like the places that get wet, then you have those skin tags. That is also a sign of insulin resistance. There's all kinds of signs. Definitely go. I know Dr. Adam Nally did a whole post about this. If you type in insulin resistance, Adam Nally, you should find his blog post that he did about this. But it's all kinds of signs. But the ones that I just mentioned here are some of the major ones that you can be looking for. But thank you for that question. Have you done any posts on people leaving carnivore for Ray Peat's diet recently? Yeah, I've seen some of that chatter out there. But look, here's the thing. I wish, not just in the carnivore community, but even in the keto community, in every community, let's not pretend like there aren't people who struggle. This is something that has burdened me and bothered me from the very start, being in the nutritional health space. And paleo was really bad at this when I was involved in that about a decade ago. You would have people that would say, well, I'm starting to have these issues and everything. Well, it's your fault. You're doing everything wrong. You're wrong. Oh, no, paleo's perfect. No. And I'm like, okay, at least admit that, okay, not everybody's going to do spectacular on any given diet. I am a keto diet book author. Like literally, I've written so many books about keto, it's not even funny. But I'll be the first to admit to you that keto is not right for everybody. Some people are going to have issues. Now, sometimes when they have issues, it is things that could be tweaked just slightly to make it work. But some people, quite frankly, it just doesn't work. And that's okay. I don't think we need to be so dogmatic, and especially in the carnivore community. Oh my gosh, you go carnivore, you just eat meat, all your woes go away. And it's just simply not true, as it is with any diet plan. And so I wish there would be more emphasis on the reality of the situation. Okay, here's someone that did not do well with carnivore. It doesn't mean carnivore is a bad diet. It just means for that person in that situation, it wasn't ideal. We don't need to be afraid of making the diet look infallible. We don't want it to be infallible. We want people to see it's a real diet that could be a modality that helps you. And for others, it may not be. So I'm not surprised that people try other diets. That's just the nature of how this works. Just want to say thank you for coming on meetrx.com. It was an amazing interview. Yeah, I got to be on, thank you for that, by the way, the VIP community for MeetRx, which is Dr. Sean Baker's group, the other day. A lot of fun. Sean is a cool dude, guys. If you are interested in the carnivore diet at all and you need support, and you're worried about the censorship that's happening on social media, definitely go join meetrx.com. And I'm sure they would love to have you over there. But thank you for that, Becky. And then finally, what are the 5 foods that you consider the best for human nutrition? Well, see, that's a tricky one because it depends on your angle. If you're a vegan, some of these foods I'm about to mention to you will not even break your top 5 at all. Won't even be in the top ever. Because the first one I say is red meat. I think it's the most nutrient dense food you could possibly put in your mouth because you're getting all the essential amino acids. You're getting great fatty acid composition. People say, oh, it's all saturated fat. It really isn't. Actually, red meat is 50% saturated fat and 50% monounsaturated fat. And yet that's never talked about. When you hear about monounsaturated, you think, oh, avocado oil and olive oil. Yeah, those are pure monounsaturated fat. But red meat has quite a bit. All right, so red meat would be number 1. I would say eggs would also be in there. Highly, highly nutrient dense little morsels of goodness. Like I said, I've pretty much been subsisting on those here in the midst of COVID-19 and all the craziness that's happened this year. They've been my go-to food when I can't afford to buy other foods. Butter, I would put in that category as well. But really, I guess you could say any healthy fat, lard, tallow, coconut oil, butter, ghee, all of those could be classified as parts of the healthy human nutrition. And then you get into like some categories of food that, okay, people can take it or leave it. Things like raw nuts. I think raw nuts can be very nutrient dense for the people that do eat plant-based foods, nuts and nut butters and things like that. And then one more, if you're going to consume vegetables or plant matter, make it green leafy vegetables. Make it, and you don't have to just stick to kale. I know kale gets all the glorification, but any green leafy vegetable, and let's throw in there, any low sugar fruits if you can handle those. And look, if somebody ate red meat, eggs, some kind of a healthy fat like butter, nuts, and green leafy, non-starchy vegetables and low sugar fruits, do you think they would be healthy? I think they would. So that would be my 5. But thank you for that question. All right, guys, we are all out of questions over there. Now let's get to your questions live. Again, ask me your question. This is Ask Me Anything. Ask away. We'll come to you in due course. We're going to come over here first over to Instagram, then to Facebook, and finally over to YouTube. Welcome in. JimmyRants.com is the website. Patty has the first question. Are you still flipping your tire? It's hot here in Spartanburg. How is the greenhouse? So lots of questions there. With it so hot outside, I have tried flipping that tire. It is out there, the tractor tire. It is so ungodly hot. When it gets over 90 degrees, it is so hard to breathe just standing outside. So when you're flipping a tire, you're not just breathing, you're breathing hard. So I have to mow my grass when we're done with this Jimmy Rants here today. It's going to be all I can do just to push a lawnmower, much less a 200-pound tire that I have to lift up off the ground and flip and lift up off the ground and flip. So to answer your question, no, but I'll also give you the caveat. I've been under an immense amount of stress this year. I've got a personal issue that has been burdening me all year. I try to stay happy for you guys on the camera, but in actuality, I'm struggling behind the scenes with a personal issue on top of COVID and all the other kind of stresses that are out there. So I have found that when I am in that kind of state, it's almost impossible for me to feel good exercising. And this is an important concept for you to remember. Sometimes it's okay to just back away and get through situations that you're going through, and not feel like you have to do all the quote right things. And for a lot of people, well, I have to keep exercising. And not that I'm being slothful, I am doing movement. I'm just not doing an aggressive one like the flipping of the tire. But I know that until I get past this situation, it's just not going to be better. So to answer your question, no, I am not doing it between the heat and then the stress. Maybe when this alleviates here in a few more months and the heat goes down, maybe during the winter, I can get out there and flip it. I definitely miss doing it. As for the greenhouse, there's nothing in there. So I did not grow a garden this year. Again, because of some of the struggles I'm having personally this year. So nothing in the greenhouse. It's just an empty greenhouse back there. But thank you for that question. Thank you for caring and sharing. Thank you, Victoria. Appreciate you. Croatian Keto, what do you think about chicory coffee as an alternative to real coffee? Well, you're talking to the non-coffee guy. I am not a fan of coffee just because I'm a hyper taster, and so it's very bitter on my tongue. So I'm the wrong person to ask about coffee. I don't like any coffee, quote, real or chicory or otherwise. So the only thing I know about chicory is chicory root, which has kind of a sweetness to it. I mean, do you like it? Is it giving you benefit? Do you feel good drinking it? I really don't know anything about chicory coffee, to be honest. But I'd say if you like it and you feel like you're getting benefit, then go for it. Carnivorous Crystal wants to know, a 24-hour fast daily okay for women? So great question, thank you. And not just for women. I know a lot of women have this mistaken notion that they can't fast as well as guys, and it's simply not true. I know a lot of women that do just fine fasting. 24-hour fast. So basically what you're asking is, can a woman do what's called OMAD, 1 meal a day? I don't know if it's a matter of could they. It might be a should they. If you're still menstruating, it could possibly be problematic if you do it every single day. From a lot of the people I talk to about fasting now, they try to say cycle it in a 24-hour fast, maybe 2 to 3 times a week. If you do it daily, then your body gets used to it. Think about it like when you exercise and you do the same exercise over and over and over again. At some point, your body's going to adapt to that exercise, and you're going to stop getting the benefit that maybe you got at the beginning. And it's the same way with fasting. If you do an OMAD every single day, your body's going to be like, oh, okay, this is the way we eat now. And so you kind of don't get the full benefits that you would normally get. So I would say mix it up, Crystal. Why don't you have 16-8 one day, then go OMAD the next day, then the next day after that, maybe do an 18-6, and then do a 24 the next day, and then maybe do an extended fast of like 2-3 days after that. Mix it up. I think that's what provides you the best benefit. If you get too caught up in one way of fasting, then it can definitely not be productive for you. But I hope that helps you out. Becky says, thanks for keeping it real and raw. We all have our ups and downs, but keep it real and honest is very valuable. I always will. I mean, I don't sit here and like pour my heart out about all the woes. All of us have our own personal issues in our lives. And so I don't think that mine are any more unique than other people's. But this year has been very hard. It was going to be a hard year for me anyway, even without COVID-19. But that's only added to it even more. Thank you, Instagram. We'll come back to you guys here in a minute. Keep your questions rolling for this Ask Me Anything. But I'm going to pop over here now to my Facebook channel. What's up, Facebook? Thank you guys for being here today. See what kind of questions you have. Tracy says, what do you think about hydroxychloroquine being used as a treatment for COVID? How about all the media platforms have shut down the video talking about treating patients with this? I think all options should be looked at. And since it is coming off of its patent, it should be cheaper. So Tracy, I have been posting about hearing all voices a lot lately. I'm not going to answer the question about hydroxychloroquine because I'm not a doctor. I don't have any experience with this. I have looked at all the studies, some of the ones that show it's bad, some of the ones that show it's good, and listening to doctors like the ones you mentioned, and then listening to other doctors say, well, that's an incomplete, da-da-da. I'm not going to get into that specifically, but your point about looking at all the options, this has been the point of contention that I've had with everything that's been happening around COVID-19. Why are we only allowed to hear one side of the issue? Why is only one narrative the entirety of the story? I'll tell you what, over here on Instagram today, I had several people send me screenshots of what Instagram did to them, and I'm sure they're doing it here on Facebook as well. Instagram gives a warning. Oh, you liked a post that had false information about COVID-19. To get accurate information, please go to the World Health Organization's website, and they give the link. Okay, that's all well and good, but is the World Health Organization the one and only voice that needs to be heard? I don't think so. I think clearly thinking, rational people need to hear all sides of an issue, even if something runs counter to what everybody is saying is true. You need to hear all sides, and if you get to hear all sides, then you, using personal responsibility and judgment and analysis and all the things that have brought you this far in your life, you can make the decision about what you believe is true and what's not. Like when that lady, the Stella lady that you're mentioning here, you know, they went after her and, oh, she believes this. And then I'm like, that is like a non-issue here. The question is not about her. The question is about the information that she and all those other doctors were sharing. Are we supposed to not hear that kind of information? And if there's not efficacy in things like hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and Zithromax, if it has no efficacy whatsoever, then let's have the conversation publicly. Let's don't destroy an individual like they did Stella. Let's have the conversation about the issue. This is what I've hated about the online world forever. People often say, well, keto doesn't work. Just look at Jimmy Moore. And I'm like, okay, but me as an individual does not invalidate the message of keto. Do I have extra weight on the body? Sure. But that has nothing to do with the message of keto. And yet people always try to make that equivalency between me and the diet that I promote. Same with this Stella lady. It doesn't take away from the fact that she's seeing great benefits. She and all those doctors are seeing great benefits from hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and Zithromax. And so my opinion is we need to be hearing from these doctors and have like discussions. Why aren't they bringing those doctors onto a national news program and having other doctors that maybe disagree, and then they have this kind of friendly debate amongst colleagues? This is the thing. They want us to listen to doctors, but they don't want us to listen to certain doctors. And that to me is a problem. Who is getting to decide who we get to hear from and who we don't get to hear from? We don't know. But that's how it's going right now. So I totally agree. All options should be looked at. They do. Nancy says, I'm watching COVID congressional hearings right now. Dr. Fauci just went into how T cells were helping. Thanks for the rant on that the other day. I knew what he was talking about. Yeah, I did a rant last week, a Jimmy Rants episode last week, on how we may have more people have fought off COVID-19 than we even realized, because your T cells, which are a part of your immune system, are fighting it off without the production of antibodies. So there's no antibody production, so you're not seeing it on a test. You don't test positive for COVID-19. And yet you might have fought it off asymptomatically or had mild symptoms. I told the story from a couple of months ago when I was flat down on the bed all day, just fatigued to no end. And that was it. I had this really horrible experience having to rest basically a whole day. And I thought for sure, okay, maybe I had COVID-19 and that was my symptoms. And then I go and get the antibodies and there's no antibodies. The thing is, you can't test for T cells and whether they were triggered to kill off COVID-19 or not. So how many people have had that experience happen, and yet we're not seeing them counted? We just think there's people that haven't had it yet. There's so many things we don't know about COVID-19. I wish people would stop being so assertive of what they think they know when we don't really know anything. And we don't have accurate statistics on people who have it. The percentage of people who have gone to hospital and died, and then with the deaths, we don't have accurate data on who actually died from COVID-19, not just with COVID-19. There is so much going on with this that it's almost hard to keep up with it all. And you just have to keep a skeptical eye. And as Tracy was saying, we need to be hearing all points of view on this. Stephanie says, I have a question about your thoughts on doing dairy with carnivore. Do you think that lactose is something that negates a lot of the benefits of carnivore? I think it depends, Stephanie. I think some people handle dairy just fine, and high-fat dairy could be an effective adjunct to a carnivore diet, could certainly make it more pleasurable. But I know some people that totally avoid dairy. I think if you're one of those people that are already dairy sensitive, maybe you start to get stomach upset when you add dairy into your carnivore diet, you're one that needs to pull it out. But if someone consumes dairy with their carnivore diet, it's still an animal-based food, then I think it could be a perfectly fine. So I think it's going to be one of those highly individualized things. See if you have sensitivity to dairy. If you do not, enjoy it. If you do, take it out. It's no big deal. What are your thoughts on drinking ketones? They're so expensive, but some people swear by these products, says Julia. So Julia, I've been ranting a lot about exogenous ketones lately. And I'll give you the long and short of it because I have done very long rants about this. If it's a company that's a multi-level marketing company, please run and run very fast. They're enthusiastic because they're making a crap load of money off of you. If you have a neurodegenerative disease or you have some other brain health issue, then perhaps it could be useful as an adjunct to boosting ketones to help with the brain condition. But for the general population, just trying to be in a state of ketosis, a state of nutritional ketosis for the health benefits, you do not need exogenous ketones. You don't. Because they're only very temporary, an hour and a half, 2 hours, they stay in your blood system and then they're gone. And really you're just peeing them out. And the way they're being marketed is, well, we know you can't possibly carbohydrate restrict, and so therefore, go ahead, eat all the carbs and drink your ketones. You know what that's equivalent to in my mind? It's equivalent to telling a type 2 diabetic, oh, well, we know you can't control your blood sugar, so eat all the carbs you want, take some insulin. It's exactly the same thing. And so you're getting higher levels of blood sugar, and then you're going to drink these ketones, which boost your ketone levels in your blood. So you have high blood sugar, high ketones. That ain't a good metabolic state. You can make all the ketones you need simply by restricting carbohydrates, doing periods of fasting. There's all kinds of tricks you can do to boost your ketones. But at the end of the day, you're really not looking for ketones to be real high on a meter. You're looking at utilizing and having them. I did a great interview with Vanessa Spina, the ketogenic girl, just this week on Wednesday on the Living La Vida Low Carb show. Go listen, llvlc.com. And she made this point. Look, she hardly registers any ketones at all anymore, and yet she's still in ketosis because she's making ketones, and as she's making them, she's utilizing those same ketones. So we've gotten this idea that you have to have higher and higher levels of ketones on the meter, when at the end of the day, you're not looking for higher ketones, you're looking for more efficient production of ketones and then utilization of those ketones. That's what you're looking for. So no, not a fan of drinking ketones willy-nilly. Once and again, if you're stressed and maybe you're not feeling great, okay, fine. If you're treating a neurodegenerative or some other brain health kind of condition, great, fine. But very few people need it. Thank you for that question, though. All right, thank you, Facebook. Now let me pop over here to my YouTube channel, which is never a dull moment. Let's see what you guys have for me here today. Hi, Jimmy. Most species of animals' diet consist of one to a few main sources of nutrition. If we as humans were meant to eat only a few foods, what's your best guess as to what that food would be? So, Craig, if you were here earlier, somebody asked what were your 5 go-to nutritious foods. So I would just say those things that I mentioned earlier, but thank you for that question. Johanna, what do you drink while fasting? Your opinion about cream or butter in coffee while fasting. Okay. What I drink while fasting? Dilly dilly. All right, Jimmy's going to go in full-on rant mode for the butter and cream while fasting in your coffee. If you are fasting and you put butter or cream in your coffee, listen carefully, you are no longer fasting. I know this is a hard concept for people to understand, but when you are fasting, it literally means no food at all. And the last time I checked, butter and cream, both are foods, both have calories. And so you don't want to stoke that in your body. So when you're fasting, fast. When you're feasting, feast. This is what gets me. People, when they're fasting, they're looking for any excuse at all to put calories in their body. And yet when it's time for them to feast, people are like, well, I don't want to eat too much. Oh, yeah. No, eat. That is your permission. Your time to eat is when you're eating. So when you're fasting, fast, which means as close to 0 calories as possible. 1 tablespoon of butter is going to jack up your calories suddenly really fast. And And then when you're eating, eat. Don't under eat calories. And so, no, not a fan of putting butter and cream in coffee while you're fasting. But thank you for that question. I laughed out loud when you said they directed you to the World Health Organization. Yeah, they did. They do. Misdirection says, thanks for your information today and every day. Thank you. Plex says, stop scamming. Who am I scamming? But I appreciate your comment, but who am I scamming? I am literally here to provide information. I'm not forcing anybody to believe anything I say. I don't force anybody to, you must believe what I say or you're going to whatever. I'm not threatening anybody. I provide information, part of what I do it on a daily basis. And then I trust the intelligence of the people watching this to make good decisions about what they want to do in their life. That's the way it should be. This is why censoring information simply because you disagree with it, it's not dangerous. Information is not dangerous. Information is simply another data point that people can hear and assimilate in their brain about what they believe about whatever the information is about. That's all information is. And it's literally all I do here on Jimmy Rants. And we don't need to be silencing voices that are providing information. If you don't like the information, okay, great, hear them out. And then if it's not relevant to you, then just dismiss it and you move on. This whole vilification of people and ideas simply because you disagree with them, can I tell you that is such a foreign concept to me? Like, I grew up in an America where a healthy debate of ideas was not only encouraged, like it was normal. Like, go on YouTube, you can see all kinds of older videos on YouTube from like the 1980s. And you would see these people taking opposite positions on various issues. And then at the end of it, they were very cordial and oh, thank you, oh, wonderful. And they were so gracious to each other. And that graciousness is missing in our culture today. If you disagree with someone, suddenly they are public enemy number one and must be destroyed. I don't get that. That's foreign to me. But it is where we are, unfortunately. All right, let's come back over here to Instagram, see if you guys have any other questions. Keto Kazan says, Dr. Fung says butter and cream and MCT are okay if the goal is to support fasting, as it shouldn't raise insulin. Well, that's true, but I think the question is, are we talking about not raising insulin or are we talking about fasting? Because if you're truly fasting and you're trying to get the benefits of fasting, I agree with him in this role. If you're simply trying to get the benefits of fasting without being totally caught up on the idea of it being fasting, and you're just trying to keep insulin low, then he is correct. Use butter, use cream, use MCT if it helps you do the fast and get through it. Okay, fine. But that's a different totally situation of just keeping insulin low. You could eat a ketogenic diet and keep your insulin low. Shouldn't raise insulin, ketogenic diet. So where I disagree is, if you're going to fast, there's certain metabolic processes that take place when you're not having any food at all. Think about, you turn off everything when you're not eating. So the pancreas gets a total break, and other parts of your body. So when you don't eat at all, you let the whole system just go, and yet if you have even a little bit of something like the butter, the cream, the MCT oil, your body has to kick up and process and digest those things. Is it going to raise insulin? No, but it's going to turn on a lot of other processes that, but for you eating those things, would have a chance to relax. And I think it's in that relaxation time of not having to work where healing can take place. So for me, Keto Kaizen Chick, I think it's important, if you're going to fast, please stick to fasting. If your goal is to keep insulin low, then mix in periods of keto and intermittent fasting, but don't act like when you're having those butter, cream, and MCT in a coffee that you're still fasting. You are not. Alrighty, thank you, Instagram. I see another one came over here on Facebook. Nancy says, I find exogenous ketones help occasionally if I have to be at top brain activity after 4 p.m. The other day I had a 2-hour live web training followed by a mandatory recertification test. My brain shuts off around 4. The exogenous ketones gave me the energy and brain burst I needed to get through the training and pass the test. See, you used it strategically, Nancy. That's what's cool. You knew that it could give you that boost and help, and you didn't just take it willy-nilly. There are people who drink those exogenous ketones on a daily basis with no purpose in mind. They just drink it. And I'm going, okay, you must like expensive urine, because that's basically all you're doing. But you used it at a great way. By the way, after 4, yeah, I'm toast in the brain as well. People that want to interview me, sometimes they'll be like, so we'd like to have you on at 7 p.m. I'm like, yeah, I'm almost in bed at 7 p.m. If you look at my sleep data, I post it every day on Instagram stories. My sleep data, I go to bed. Sometimes I go to bed at 7 o'clock. Last night it was right at like 8 o'clock, like 7:45, 8 o'clock. And then I'm up in the wee hours of the morning, 3:30, 4 o'clock. That's how I go. So I'm there with you. I would not be doing well after 4 p.m. And more power to you getting benefit from exogenous ketones. So good job. All right, I saw something else come in over here. You had talked about having an egg sensitivity. Is that doing better now? Thank you, Mika. Yeah, so I think it was 3 years ago now. I went and got a food sensitivity test done. And it showed that I had a sensitivity to not just egg whites, but egg yolks that were like 5 times off the charts high. And so the doctor was like, do you eat a lot of eggs? I'm like, yeah, I've got backyard chickens. I eat them all the time. He's like, yeah, you're gonna have to back off that. And I'm like, okay. So it didn't manifest as any symptoms per se that I noticed. It might have been subclinical types of symptoms, but I didn't feel anything from it. But to help remedy this sensitivity, I went completely off of all my backyard chicken eggs for a period of 6 months. I did not retest, but I assume that helped to bring it down. Well, now I'm eating eggs primarily out of necessity because I don't have the money to buy lots of red meat, which is what I would normally be eating. And so I'm having to eat them more and more. To me, it's a sacrifice in 2020 to get through this year that's a struggle, and then get on the other side of it, and I'll start eating that better. But yes, I am concerned that it could turn into a sensitivity again. It's definitely a real thing. So if you've never run a food sensitivity test, it is really fascinating how they can do it. There's all kinds of ones out there. I've seen the one where they do like a little cut on the back of your back. They go up and down your back and got all these little slits, and it's all these sensitivities, and they like put a little dye on there to see what darkens, and the ones that darken are the ones you have the most sensitivity. That is not the one I had done. I'm trying to remember the one I did. It might have been a blood test or hair sample. There was something. But all I know is it came back that I was very high, off the chart sensitivity to both egg yolks and egg white. And some of them were funny, like high sensitivity to coffee. I don't drink coffee, so I don't know why I'm sensitive to it. And of course, with all of these tests, any testing, you just have to take it for what it is. It is a test that could have potential flaws. I can't tell you how many people, they take some kind of a blood test, and they get one reading back that's awry, and they go, oh my gosh! And they just freak out over one reading. Can I tell you, if you get one reading back of something that's awry, and it just seems out of place, don't rely on that one reading. Get retested. If you're really concerned, get retested to confirm. And I'll give you an example of it. This is about maybe 8 or 10 years ago. I got a PSA test back, and a PSA is one of those male tests where it kind of tests your prostate health. And so about 8 or 10 years ago, I get this test result back. It's supposed to be under 1, and usually mine is like 0.6, 0.8, and it's under 1 is really good. And it came back 20. And I remember going, okay, that's kind of weird. And the doctor was like, yeah, we're not sure what's going on there. Maybe we need to give you a medicine. I said, well, no, don't give me any medicine yet. Let's see what's going on. It turns out I had a urinary tract infection. And so we dealt with the urinary tract infection, got the inflammation down, got it fixed, and then we retested and it was 0.6. So it just goes to show you that if you only get one test and one result, and then you try to do treatment based on one test, one result, that test could be flawed, or the test could reveal that something else is going on. I did not need that medication he was going to put me on, but had I not spoken up, I would have gone on that med and it would not have fixed the urinary tract infection. Really fascinating, huh? All right, you guys. So if you don't have any other questions, we're going to end this Ask Me Anything, but thank you so much for being here. I do want to make one more pitch for the Patreon link. So go to jimmyrants.com, click on Patreon and support the work. I am working on making that kind of a go-to place for those of you that like what I do here. And support me through that work. And I'm trying to put resources there to help you out. Like I said, you get sneak peek right now. You get to see both of next week's podcasts today. You get it way ahead of time. I'm going to start working on some Jimmy Rants episodes exclusively for that site as well. So you'll be able to partake in that information. Right now, there's not enough people there to do that. But once I get to a certain level, I will do exclusive Jimmy Rants episodes just for my Patreon followers. But go engage, and if you like what I do, it really does help me out and keeps me encouraged to keep going. I'm going to be dead honest with you. This has been an incredibly discouraging year for me. I am used to doing things a certain way and used to having sponsors that support my work and all the rest. And it's just been messed up really bad. And I have not been getting quite the level of support that I typically do from those sources of income, for example. And so I struggle about, okay, do I just need to shut everything down and go away this year and regroup in 2021? Like it's been a hard year, and I know I'm not the only one. There's other people dealing with the realities of what COVID-19 has brought on, but this has been a struggle this year. And then the personal issue that I'm dealing with is certainly not helping matters either. So there have been some days that I said, you know what, I'm just going to shut down the rest of the year. But then I think better of it and say, no, I have a voice to share, and I think people want to hear what I have to say. And so I keep coming on here every day doing Jimmy Rants. So if you like what I do and you want to see me keep doing it, it would really encourage me if you could go and support through the Patreon link. I would be grateful for that. But thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys have a great weekend. It's always a pleasure to do Jimmy Rants for you here. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. So be here on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Thank you for being here today. And that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And you can engage live right here on Instagram. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, LivinLowCarbMan. So be here at 11 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. Same with Facebook, same with YouTube. Thank you all for being here. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay here on IGTV. You can also see the replay over on YouTube. Just type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants, you'll find the show. And then finally, JimmyRants.com, see all the past episodes there. And once again, click on the Patreon link for a donation of any amount would be greatly appreciated. All right, you guys, have a wonderful weekend. We will see you again on Monday, and thanks so much for being here. Bye.